Good afternoon. Today, I will discuss the idea of winning and what it looks like to different people, and I will relate it back to things I am very passionate about. If I was to say the word winning to you, these things might pop into your head. Images of a gold medal, the Olympic podium, or even Charlie Sheen. All of those things are what winning could be, yet those are individual ideas of winning. They are accomplished by singular goals. The idea of this talk came from the book Francona, The Red Sox Years, in which ex-Red Sox manager Terry Francona gives an explicit look into his 2 team championships as well as the collapse of the 2011 Red Sox. Baseball has always intrigued me because even though it seems like a very singular type of sport, one pitcher versus one batter, the idea of team is more prevalent here than any other sport. Role players, clubhouse guys, and team chemistry are important, and it's the thing that binds a team together, gives them that extra push, and allows them to hoist the World Series trophy together as a team. We will talk a lot about baseball today, but it's also worth mentioning that this talk will be tied into an organizational aspect as well, a cultural aspect of team, and how that relates to the business world. I know that we're going to talk a lot about team success and team winning, but I also think it is a good idea to take a minute and stop to talk about individual success, because that can be very important to team players and the overall success of a team. Personal success is a good thing because the definition of it is different for everyone. Success is all about reaching our goals, and we all have different goals set for ourselves. These could be anything and everything, so allow me to share some of my personal goals with you. As of this moment right now, my goals are to hopefully impress all of you, especially Professor Isbell, with this talk, graduate college, get a good job, settle down, and move on. You know, the normal stuff. However, I also wish to play music at local venues that I grew up going to and maybe even tour with a band. I wish to be able to do things like understand the business world better and figure out what it takes to work a real 40-hour-a-week job. I also want to be able to shoot under 90 on a golf course before I graduate college, because I love golf, but I also hear that a lot of business is done on the golf course, so I want to be able to hold my own with my bosses as well as my colleagues. As a total side note, I will never let my boss win in golf. It shows that I'm a competitor and do everything 110%. The thing about personal success and personal goals is that if you accomplish them, you feel better about yourself and will be more inclined to help the team succeed. The best team is one of high morale, where everyone is in good spirits and is positive. From my own experience with this, my orientation staff is the most positive and upbeat people imaginable. This creates not only for a better environment for them to thrive, it also helps them because they are more productive, because they are happy. They encourage each other, and they never stop smiling. When someone is this happy with their own personal success, I found that they want to not only continue to succeed, but their goals get even bigger. They want to achieve more. If this was an employee constantly growing and reaching higher, it'd be a great thing. You'd get so much out of that employee because they'd be charged up and ready to work and ready to make a difference within their organization. The main point about personal success is that it should be directly linked with the organization's goals. Succeeding within your company is also helping the company succeed. No job you work at wants you to fail. It's bad business. They want to see you driven, empowered, earnest workers who reach for the top of the ladder and strive to be the best that they can be. That's what makes a great employee. And we're going to talk about how a group of great employees can make a great company great. I know that I showed a lot of things of what winning is previously, but there is more to winning than winning the gold medal or standing alone on a medal stand. Today, we will talk about team winning. Team winning is everyone pulling their own weight. Everyone has a role, and everybody must stick to their role to make sure that the job gets done. The idea of everyone being a cog in the clock has been used 1,000 times before, but for the purpose of this talk, that analogy is really good. If someone stops doing their job, the whole thing would fall apart. If there were no cogs in the clock wouldn't work, and the clock would fail. The idea behind teamwork and team winning is that everyone does something that contributes to the overall progression of the team. They do not do things to further themselves or make themselves shine above their team or teammates. Everyone is equally important, and everyone has an equal share of the weight to carry. Now, before we go any farther into the dynamics of winning, you need to be familiar with the story of Boston baseball we will be discussing today. First, let's talk about the team that changed everything for not only myself, but the city of Boston as a whole, the 2004 Red Sox. I remember where I was. It was mid-October, it was cold outside. It was a weekday, and I had school real early the next morning, so my mom put me to bed and said she'd wake me if we were winning. It was Game 4 of the 2004 World Series, Boston Red Sox versus the St. Louis Cardinals. We needed one more win to break an 86-year winless drought. They woke me after the 7th inning, and I watched the end of the game, eyes not moving from our TV screen. I was so in tune. I felt like I was there. I was getting chills after each inning, knowing that we were getting closer to a moment I had been waiting my whole life for. My grandfather had been waiting even more patiently, almost 60 years. As the final out ensued, I just remember hearing that radio that was playing at the same time. I still remember the words that the broadcaster said. Ground ball, stabbed by Folk. He has it. He underhands to first, and the Boston Red Sox are world champions. For the first time in 86 years, the Red Sox are world champions. Can you believe it? That end line, can you believe it, was important to me, and it will be important today in this talk because no one believed it was possible in April when the season began. No one pegged my Boston Red Sox as champions. No way. No one could have predicted the epic series against our hated rivals, the New York Yankees, where we came back on the verge of elimination 4 times to beat the favorites. That true David versus Goliath story showed me what that team is all about and what a band of brothers could accomplish. There was a magic there, and no one could have pictured what happened next. Keith Folk caught a ground ball by future Red Sox Edgar Renteria. He took 2 steps and underhanded the ball to first baseman Doug Mientkiewicz. There was plenty of Red Sox fans in attendance at Busch Stadium in St. Louis that night, and I remember wondering why the place erupted in cheers. I saw the ball enter the first baseman's mitt, and I fell to my knees and I started to cry. My neighbors burst through their front doors, and everyone was screaming. Horns were blaring. It was electric outside of my house. I remember it so fondly because it was such a great story. The poetic ending of the 2004 season was even more important because these players were not winners. No one expected them to win. They traded away their star shortstop, Nomar Garciaparra, and their clubhouse was laid back. They took shots of Jack Daniels before cold October games to calm their nerves and warm their bellies. They didn't look like the professional New York Yankees with their tucked-in uniforms and no jewelry rule. They had long hair and unruly beards. Their shirt tails were hanging out at bat, and they wore big diamond earrings on the field. They looked like a bad rock band, not champions. The reason why this idea is important is because these idiots, as they were named, cared about things other than what they looked like. They were more involved with each other. They cared more about each other. And that identity of idiots helped them bond closer together. This was by far not the most talented team. However, this was the most cohesive team. They each knew their role, and they stuck with it. Individual stats did not matter as long as they were the last team standing in October. People like Dave Roberts, established veterans, sat on the bench for a whole season, not complaining, but stole probably one of the most important bases in baseball history, giving the Red Sox an opportunity to go to the World Series. Role players in baseball are more important than any other sport. The season is so long, 162 games, and there is a game almost every day. So people may need a day off here and there, so bench players play a much more significant role than most sports. Clubhouse guys are gaining popularity amongst Major League ball clubs because they are quickly recognizing how important they are. You won't be able to see how important people like Trot Nixon are on the field, but behind the closed doors of a clubhouse, you recognize how vital he can be to a team's success. He keeps the men engaged and the clubhouse lively. Clubhouse guys are people that keep the team morale high. They are quick to laugh, they keep the energy up. They make sure that the team is bonding. They are sometimes not the most talented players, but they are just as crucial as superstars. People like Gabe Kapler, Bill Miller, and Eric Hinske were all referenced in Terry Francona's book as his best clubhouse guys. They weren't the David Ortiz or Pedro Martinez superstars, but they were equally crucial to the team's success. As time passed and years went by on Boston's beloved ball club, the idea of winning became lost amongst all of the noise. Terry Francona, and almost every other manager in fact, have stated that managing in Boston is a high-pressure situation unlike any other city in baseball. Since the team is always under the microscope, a lot of non-baseball activity can come into the picture and disrupt the organization from its one true goal, that is winning. Firstly, in order to understand how the team got away from winning, we need to first understand the ownership of the Boston Red Sox and how they contributed to the failing team-oriented atmosphere of the ball club. Initially, the new ownership of the Boston Red Sox that began in 2003 was one of the best things for the team ever. They renovated the stadium, putting in those new monster seats, redoing the concourse for a more pleasant experience, and made Fenway even more of a great atmosphere to come watch the game. They did truly make it Boston's most beloved ballpark. The ownership quickly then became more involved with things other than the Red Sox. To own a baseball team, these four owners were very rich bureaucrats. Due to this, they became increasingly more involved with money-making schemes instead of baseball. The owners of the Red Sox bought a NASCAR club team and a Liverpool soccer club, all things that are a distraction from them as a team as a whole. The focal point of these endeavors, however, came at a conference with the manager Terry Francona. NESN, the Red Sox flagship TV station, their ratings were lower than usual. The four owners told the manager that he had to win baseball games in a, quote, more dramatic fashion, end quote. Clearly, they were not concerned about winning in a way that could potentially harm the team, but they only saw dollar signs and needed the ratings to be higher. They clearly didn't care about the baseball. Terry Francona cited in his book that this was the incident that most prominently displayed how little ownership cared about the baseball team. They needed the ratings to be higher to get more money, to bring in a new attraction, to get more money. The idea at the front office became more about money than more championships. It is one of the large contributing factors why Terry Francona didn't come back with the Red Sox in 2012. He believed in baseball. The front office believed in cash. Simultaneously, the Red Sox had a bunch of talent. A good thing, right? However, that was the furthest thing from the truth. On paper, the Red Sox of 2012 were predicted to win the World Series by most because of their vast amount of superstars. People like David Ortiz, Josh Beckett, Carl Crawford, and Adrian Gonzalez, just to name a few. However, the ironic thing about the pathetic 2012 season was that supposedly they were so good, yet they were so bad. The 2012 Red Sox were not concerned with the idea of team, or even winning for that fact. They did more for themselves than actually supporting the team. It started the season before, in 2011, where pitchers who weren't pitching that day would sit in the clubhouse and drink beer and eat fried chicken, instead of sitting on the bench per usual and rooting their teammates on. In 2012, the chicken and beer scandal had subsided, but the problem still remained. Clubhouse chemistry wasn't the same. Players had said to Francona in his book that it didn't have the same atmosphere as it did in years past. Players didn't bond like they were used to. It was a bad environment. These large-scaled, high-salary athletes paid more attention to their personal statistics than the wins for the team. An excellent example of this is one time, David Ortiz stormed into the manager's office after the last day of the season to yell at him because he didn't start him on the last day of the season so he could try to hit 100 RBIs, even though he had an atrocious batting average against the starting pitcher that day. This wasn't the same team that wouldn't say a word if they didn't play or didn't reach that milestone. The idea of winning, and more importantly, the idea of team, was gone. Winning is something everyone likes to do. No one ever strives to fail. It's not how we're wired. We want to be at the top of the podium, hoisting the trophy, and we want to be on top of the medal stand with the medal around our neck. As I played sports as a kid, our team never won. I played baseball for 12 years, and almost every year our record was atrocious. We only won the championship once, one year, and it was a fluke more than anything. However, no one was ever upset about winning. Little League is a great example of how winning shouldn't matter. And the idea of team and the idea of chemistry is better shown here than anywhere. No one was upset that we went 0-16 or 2-14 2 years in a row. No one thought that this was an issue. It wasn't why we were playing baseball. We were playing because we liked standing in the dugout, eating sunflower seeds and jarring at the opposing team. We liked chewing bubble gum and sliding into second and getting our uniforms dirty, which would inevitably upset our mothers because they would have to do the laundry. We'd all high-five someone when he did something great and urge him on when he messed up. We were the embodiment of a team. We were 13 young boys that helped each other out and enjoyed a great game together. The friends that I made playing Little League and the lessons we all learned stuck with me throughout my entire life. Those days of after-school Little League games were the foundation idea for this talk because I wanted to portray the idea of team and the idea of team winning. There is a great lesson in these stories that can not only be applied to sports, you can apply this to real life as well. The thing with team is that you just don't see an aspect of team on the field, or on the court, or even on the ice rink. Team is a mother and father trying to raise a child. A family is someone's most important teammates, and the idea of family is a great idea to relate back to the general theme of team and succeeding as one unit instead of as one person. Team can also be seen in the business world. Even though you may work at your cubicle, commute alone, and do what seems to be a very insignificant solo job, you are extremely important. The idea here relates back to the idea of bench players or role players. Every employee is basically a role player for his or her team or company. They have a specific task to do, and that task is extremely important for the business to succeed. Now let's imagine if employees of a corporation decide to act like the 2012 Red Sox did, only cared about themselves and don't want to help the main cause. The lack of effort by an employee wouldn't result in anything other than a termination of that employee's time. Now, if we raise this idea to the magnitude of the 2012 Red Sox campaign, where almost everyone had quit on the team, the company would have major layoffs, possibly even declare bankruptcy or go under. There are major implications if this scenario was translated from an athletic environment to a business aspect. Since many people may consider baseball a team sport, let's consider this. Let's take the idea of a baseball team and implement that model into our lovely classroom. Isbell is the manager, and we are all his players. I'm sure everyone has heard the term, win as a team, lose as a team. Well, the academic setting is extremely solitary, and people simply compete with tests and the professors for a good grade, or in the case of this example, a victory. But instead, let's imagine that since Isbell is the manager and we are a team, we win and lose as a team. Imagine if then Isbell only gave one grade for the entire class. Everyone either passes or fails. There is no in-between or C+ area because there is no in-between in sports. You either win or you lose. Through this example, hopefully some potential harmful things will be eliminated. Dario's senioritis will end, and he will work harder now more than ever so his classmates don't fail due to him. People will reach out and lend a hand to others and be more inclined to collaboration and cooperation within the classroom, which could end up being extremely beneficial to the overall learning environment. I understand that our classroom is a very tight-knit community and we're all pretty friendly with each other. But imagine a freshman class implementing this strategy. Think of how many people would get together so they don't fail and in turn fail 30 other people in Christianity and context or some other intro-level Merrimack course. It would be an interesting study to see who participated and how they contributed to the idea of team. I've talked a lot about different things today, some sports related, some personal stories about my childhood, and then we tried to tie it all into the idea of collaboration and teamwork, not on the field, but in the office as well as in the classroom. Even though it may not seem like it to people right away, the idea of team is prevalent in everyone's life. Our team is our friends, our families, and our confidants. We are not individualistic creatures. We are social, but we are also quick to lend a hand to others. A great example of this is the recent tragedy at the Boston Marathon. People competing in probably the most individualistic sport imaginable, marathon racing, continue to run after their grueling 26-mile journey, continued farther and faster to help and give blood. Even though it might have seemed like a daunting task, they continued to run in order to help those in need. That Monday, we were all a team. The city of Boston was a team, the various police forces and government agency were a team, and we wouldn't let each other fall. We wouldn't let someone take all of the spoils once the threat was over. We were one team, we were one city, one unit, all together. I don't think I could leave you with a better definition of succeeding through team efforts than Marathon Monday and the week that followed. We succeeded not only as a city, but as a nation. And the rebuilding and healing process shows how strong and unified a team can truly be. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful summer.